Last time, we took a look at Mario Galaxy, what is possibly the best example of using motion controls to create a game. Not a game that only exists for the motion gimmick, but a game that transformed the gimmick into a mechanic. But even still, my motion-controlled heart lies with PlayStation's iToy camera. And you'd think by episode 99, I'd have this camera shit figured out. The only thing I can be certain of is that there is more to this mystery than meets the iToy. Yeah! Following the success of the Nintendo Wii, PlayStation resurrected their motion control division in late 2007 with the PS3 iToy camera. This new iteration has a microphone on top and the built-in function to change the field of view on a room, directly inspired from the full vision lens attachment the previous version utilised for games like Kinetic Fitness. It's pretty standard stuff, still the same technology and basic kind of is but kind of isn't motion controls of the PS2 era. As an avid fan of the original, I honestly couldn't call the next gen version noteworthy until iPet released in 2009. Strangely, this was only released in Europe and Australia, much like iToy Play 3, the superior of the original's trilogy. Special thanks to Scott for donating this. Cheers, mate. It's an interesting little game. For starters, it's the only game I can think of that you have to play on the floor, and it's almost like the next evolution for Tamagotchis at the time. We're given an egg to look after that eventually hatches into this monkey-looking thing. I'm a tough egg to crack myself, but even I'm wowed by how fucking adorable this little bugger is. In fact, I think I'll even name him for that. Of course, we can interact with Fuck Owl using various motions and other objects, but the game also comes with this card. The camera detects its position, allowing us to much more efficiently feed, groom, and play around with the various minigames. I'm shocked at how accurately this thing responds to such minute, detailed movements. It's pretty crazy. Fuck Owl can also be taught various skills over time, such as drawing. You can take a blank piece of paper, draw a picture, scan it, and then watch him draw a copy. I think he might be a little autistic. Unless that's just me. I won't be scoring this game today as I haven't seen past the introduction, but I find it truly fascinating to see the next step of this technology, without the use of actual motion detection like the Wii. This is much different, simply using the camera to detect and track a particular visual. And that's where the gimmick infringement comes in. Say hello to the PlayStation Move. Released the following year against Xbox's Kinect, which tried to one-up the motion control game by removing the use for controllers, PlayStation, contrasting that decision, released some motion controllers that were heavily inspired by the Wiimote design. It's PS Wii, baby. Along with this came a revamped version of iPet for all regions, utilising the improved accessories in a way that makes a lot more sense for gameplay. You don't need to bring a heap of equipment just to keep your fuck owl from dying. I think it's funny how we've gone from the camera tracking a generic image on a card to this vibrating toy fitted with a flashing knob on the end. Oh, iToy! I get it now. The camera is able to track both the position of the knob perfectly on screen, as well as its position within a 3D space, using the spherical shape of the tip. Well, now that we know how this thing works, let's start the party and see how it actually works. This is the equivalent of the old iToy play games for Move, a party game with a bunch of different modes. Things like whacking bugs, painting pictures, and using a fan to push birds into a nest. As you can see, the game places objects on top of the motion controller to fit with each theme, which is really cool. We're not just waving our hands over ghosts anymore, we're blasting them with light from a torch. There are some really fun game modes here, but they're over with so quickly. They only last for a minute or two and they don't offer much outside of that. In survival mode it's much better. The rounds are actually shorter, but you keep going until the meter runs out. I actually suggested that idea in my iToy review last year. Volleyball has one of the fastest and most exciting game modes ever, Speedball. I wish there was an option to do this for as long as possible to see how long you can last, because it's top 3 things to do here. So I'm glad they took my advice and included it here. Multiplayer sucks though, as it's just round robin rules again, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Honestly, it can still be a bit of fun, and the motion controls work incredibly well, even though I am just standing here for the most part, waving my arm around. Start the Party gets 4 out of 10. Keeping this party alive, up next is Dance Star Party.
Barbra Streisand.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's about as fun as it gets. Even for one of these generic dancing games, this is pretty woeful. The selection of songs is fine, it offers more variety than what you'll get from the Kinect alternative, Dance Central, but the presentation in that game is far superior, which honestly is an integral aspect to the success for these types of party games. Look at Guitar Hero. You think people would have kept coming back for more if it looked like fucking Rock Band? Plus, the fact that our moves are only being tracked by our hands and not our entire body makes it a lot less responsive. Dance Star Party gets 3 out of 10. Alright, well we've had some fun, but enough of this sissy shit. It's time to grow from boys to men, and what do men like most? Fighting! Yeah! Danny Trejo is the fight. I can see why they called it that. The fight for hard drive space is like nothing I've ever seen. This glutton wants 1.3 gigabytes of space, which is ridiculous for a PS Wii game. I had to delete almost 90% of my save data just to get this bitch to work properly. So, it better be worth it. Danny plays the role of Duke, our tutor on the world of fisticuffs. The first thing we do is create a heinous character for ourselves. Good God, is this creation sweet garbage. And then we get a rundown on the controls. Because we're expected to throw punches, of course, we need 2 controllers. So unless you feel like juggling a 6-axis controller while throwing down, I suggest using 2 Joy-Cons instead. Christ, Trejo has never looked so pathetic waving his magic wands around. This guy is supposed to be a badass, but it just looks like he's at a really shitty rave. And what's with all the effects on his video layer? It's so bad. Am I playing Manhunt? This tutorial is painful. For one, there is no music or anything to create atmosphere, aside from the sound of thick meat hitting other meat. Ignoring the red heads-up display, everything is in black and white, so now I've got PTSD of playing the Saboteur, so that's great. But on top of all that, these controls are garbage. It doesn't feel like the absolute worst thing you'll ever experience in the safe, pristine tutorial stage, but once we actually start the game, this shit goes under incredibly fast. Moves don't track correctly, correctly, the movement is extremely limited, and best of all, this is all you do for the entire game. We've got a tree of stages, each with various opponents and challenges like don't get below a certain health, use only clean moves, and win before time runs out. But that doesn't change the fact that every fight is just this, not even working correctly. There are training modes and special moves to power yourself up a bit, but it's all for nothing. This game is pure awful on every front. Gameplay, graphics, sound design, progression structure, and most importantly, control. Fairy Wand Fight gets 2 out of 10. I don't defend Wii Sports boxing too often, but I think I'll make an exception. Whatever, I'm sick of all this fake, predetermined garbage. It's time for some real sports. Like Frisbee Golf. Again, thanks to Scott for sending in Sports Champions. This game features 6 different events. The previously mentioned Frisbee Golf, archery, volleyball, table tennis, a gladiator arena, fuck yeah, and lawn bowls. Wow, that went downhill quick. Seriously though, lawn bowls is actually the shit. It offers a balanced challenge and the motion controls work well. The same can be said for volleyball, which is okay, but nothing like classic iToy. Frisbee Golf, on the other hand, is near impossible to figure out. You'd think it'd be very similar to Wii Sports, but this has so many different elements added onto it, making it so hard to navigate the course. I will say though, the motion controls do seem accurate, just too accurate for my liking. Table tennis has the same problem. I just can't seem to do any good with it, but that's not necessarily an issue with the game. Now, archery and the gladiator arena, these are motion control bliss. In archery, we compete for high scores against a large variety of different targets, grabbing arrows from our back, loading them, and firing. It's very intuitive and very fun, while still offering a nice challenge. Gladiator Arena is one-on-one combat to the death, with crazy sword moves, using the shield to block, power-ups, and special moves for epic kills. Boom, motherfucker! This is wicked! I honestly don't mind this game overall, but the big problem, again, there is no music or anything, so it doesn't pump you up. And with the rather abstract sports on offer, and not much else, Sports Champions gets 4 out of 10. I don't think it's surprising though that the medieval modes were the most enjoyable experience because they actually get you on the move, which is supposed to be the goal for motion controls. I always thought so, despite the fact that we never see it done well. So let's move on to medieval moves. Maybe this can solve that issue. The game opens with no introduction whatsoever. We're literally just thrown straight into being ganged up on by a bunch of boners. We swing the sword for a bit as the game leads us through the level, for 20 seconds, then it cuts away to this 12-minute long storybook exposition. Why not start with that? Oh, because that little tease was the end of the game. It's one of those backwards ass ordeals, okay. We get a bit of training, more story about this dark priest or whatever, turning everyone into skeletons, and then a young Daniel Fortescue sets off to save the village. This game is essentially the archery and gladiator arena modes from Sports Champions mixed in together for an entire experience. Without any free movement, it's essentially an on-rails shooter with some close quarters combat thrown in. The big problem gets in our way as soon as the actual game starts, however, as we're forced to stop in our tracks at every single enemy until we kill everything on screen. Way to take a somewhat neat concept and immediately bone the fuck out of it. It's so tedious. Go, stop, Go. Stop. Drink some milk because that makes your bones stronger. Go. Stop. And kill 100 enemies. Very, very slowly. This is pathetic! It wasn't this tedious in the introduction. What happened? It's actually just a worse version of Link's crossbow training on the Wii, which is saying something if you ask me. My big issue with that game is the short mini-game rounds aren't long enough to be enjoyable. But this fucking thing goes on over 30 minutes with no sign of stopping. All you do is kill the same enemies with the same 3 voice lines, whacking over and over with the sword and awkwardly aiming the arrows to hit things far away. My arms are sore from holding them up so long trying to kill everything on screen. So, let's end this. Medieval Moves gets 3 out of 10. Why not try to make an actual game out of this idea? Like Super Mario Galaxy, using the motion controls for some unique gameplay, instead of stretching it thin on a basic tech demo idea. Why is that so hard for these peripherals to grasp? God, I feel like I'm directing fucking air traffic over here. Finally, let's take a look at TV superstars. The idea here is rising your way up the fame ladder, appearing on various television programs, cooking shows, renovation shows, and even a Wipeout clone. Speaking of TV shows, the way these characters are animated reminds me of Angela Anaconda.
My name is Angela, hey hello, welcome to my Marion show, I'll introduce...
I never thought I'd be making that comparison.
Oh no, it's Nitty Poo.
We get to make our own avatar by taking pictures of our face, something that has mostly been absent thus far. Strange, as it was one of the coolest aspects of the old iToy games for me. We even get to record a catchphrase. I hope you have a great fucking day.
That's great. Do you want to keep it?
I think my microphone is broken. Let's start off with DIY Raw.
Let's see who's helping me out today.
This is very familiar to the construction game mode from iToy Play 2, but this requires so much more precision. This is honestly the hardest thing I've done all day, and I had to try and find room for a fucking 1.3GB install on a PS3 hard drive earlier, so you can understand how difficult this must be. Windows get smashed, the paint goes on an uneven surface, and this tile pattern, I don't even know what happened here. Maybe Big Beat Kitchen is more my speed. This is simple enough, preparing pancakes, but every so often we get this little rap mini game and some DDR moves. I'm realising that being a chef isn't as good as Chef from iToy 2, but it still shits all over Chef's Love Shack on PS1. I do think it's funny though how progressing through the game unlocks new terrible products that you can do advertisements for. That makes me laugh. They could make an entire YouTube DLC off of this idea. Let me promote an app that scams its user base. Or maybe start my Mega Man Let's Play with a fucking Battleship advert.
Fire at will!
From what I've played of this game, I think it's enjoyable enough for what it is, and could offer more fun with some friends. I think the premise and presentation is good, but it's still just a gimmicked party game. TV Superstars gets 4 out of 10. While mediocre, it can still be fun, but the ridiculous level of accuracy required for some of these modes ruins it in the end. Well, that's the PlayStation Move. It's another one of these motion control experiments that can be a good laugh, but it just doesn't last long. It's entirely forgettable. My biggest issue with all of these gimmicks is that they're never incorporated into actual normal games, like we saw with Super Mario Galaxy last time. There was nothing even remotely close to a normal game here. If all this has to offer is some multiplayer party games and some virtual reality motion controlled tech demos, then why even bother? Why not put the effort into making a decent, memorable, worthwhile experience? The previous era of PlayStation did just that, and did it so well with heroes like Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, for the most part, and of course... well, I'm getting ahead of myself there. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed episode 99. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. I'm Square-Eyed Jak, and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.